you can't see something that I send you or post for you, you're being censored. If you can't see something Donald Trump posts for you, you're being censored. If you can't see something your friend posts for you, you're being censored. Well, the other big crisis is the government censorship targeting Americans. The left liberal Biden administration and frankly the deep state under the Trump administration has been caught red-handed censoring Americans by potentially the millions. This happened before the 2020 election and it's continuing to this day. It was election interference then, it's election interference now. They're not only intervening in elections and election matters now, but they're also interfering in your right for information or to information about COVID and vaccines and your right to discuss issues of controversy. And the Twitter files released a remarkable display of corporate citizenship by Elon Musk. His release of those Twitter files have exposed how the FBI, the CIA, the State Department, the Pentagon, Department of Homeland Security, the White House, all the king's horses and all the king's men were involved in pushing Twitter and other social media platforms to censor you, dear Americans. And they weren't really focused on censoring liberals. They were focused on censoring Trump, his supporters, and trying to make it easier for Biden to get elected and then to stay elected. I mean, let's be blunt about it. I mean, we know what the policy issues that they're pretending to be concerned about, but anything that gets in the way of their political agenda, they're willing to abuse the powers of government to censor by going through these big tech companies. And Judicial Watch hasn't been sitting on our laurels on this issue. We've been suing to get access to the information about what's been going on in terms of the government censorship. We've had several lawsuits that have emerged just alone out of the Twitter files. And one thing you need to remember is that on one hand, you've got the Twitter files being released and Elon Musk has largely, I think, pulled back a lot of the censorship. But on the other hand, you've had the Facebook and Google just continue full throttle with the censorship and suppression. And I know it's still happening because Judicial Watch continues to be victimized by it. As I've told you before, if I say the wrong thing on elections, YouTube will take it down. If I even mention COVID, there it is, I mentioned it. Now there's going to be a label potentially put there by Facebook and or Google on YouTube saying, Fitton said something about COVID. Here's something you might want to go look at, which suggests what I'm saying is wrong. And then if you go to share it on Facebook, they have a warning email that pops up or a message that pops up saying, you sure you want to share this garbage? It doesn't literally say that, but that's the implication. Further suppressing the content. Now, Twitter isn't doing that anymore. But it's still a major issue for Facebook and YouTube users and other internet users and these other social media platforms, which are also enforcing left-wing ideological and partisan censorship of conservatives. It hasn't stopped. And Twitter, relatively speaking, doesn't have that many followers compared to Facebook and YouTube. I mean, Facebook has 1 billion plus followers, I think, right? Twitter has maybe a few 100 million at most. So it's a fraction of the targeting or those being victimized on Facebook by censorship. So the government would use these third-party intermediaries who would also go to the social media platforms to get material taken down at the behest of the government. So they would also communicate with social media directly, and then they would use these other cutouts to also communicate on their behalf, the government would. And so this was exposed in congressional hearings, through Judicial Watch separate investigations, and through the Twitter files. And Judicial Watch has been in the forefront of getting more information and suing about these issues. We just sued, for instance, the Department of Homeland Security for records on this massive election censorship. We had asked for records related to the work of this so-called election integrity partnership that was, again, a way station for illicit, unconstitutional censorship of American citizens. We filed the lawsuit after DHS refused to comply with an October 27th, 2022 request. So we had asked for these records now, 5-6 months ago, and we still haven't gotten the records. So And it wasn't like we were asking for a lot of emails here. There can't be that many emails. And if there are, then there's a bigger problem than we might think. So we wanted for all communications, direct messages, records about this election integrity partnership sent via this Atlassian Jira platform. Is it Jira or Jira? J-I-R-A. I don't know how it's pronounced. Between any official or employee of the Cybersecurity and Information Security Agency, which was this new agency that was stood up that became a hotbed of anti-Trump, anti-First Amendment activism. And any member, officer, employee, or representative of any of the following: the Election Integrity Partnership, the University of Washington Center for an Informed Public, another anti-free speech entity, Stanford University's Internet Observatory, again, an anti-free speech entity, the Center for Internet Security, the Elections Infrastructure Information Sharing and Analysis Center, the National Association of Secretaries of State, which was also running through, as I'll just talk about later, censorship requests, the National Association of State Election Directors, Graphica, which is a notoriously anti-free speech entity, the Atlantic Council's Digital Forensics Research Laboratory. These are all like lengthy words or titles for left-wing censorship group. Basically, everything I've talked to you about, other than the government agencies, are just left-wing censorship groups. And of course, we want to know about their communications with the big tech companies. And so what is this platform we're concerned about? Well, they had portals that they were sending in, secret backdoor portals that they were sending requests and tickets into what they call tickets. If you familiar, if you work and you had a computer problem, you go to your help desk for your computer problem, your computer help desk folks, they give you a ticket, right? This is the ticket they pursue to track your request. And that's what they were doing with censorship. But they also had this Jira program that was kind of like Slack. I've never used Slack, but I guess it's kind of like an IM type of messaging system that allows you to instantaneously communicate and surreptitiously communicate quite easily with those in the system. So they were using this system to have near instantaneous censorship discussions about folks and targeting them. And based on representations that the Election Integrity Partnership made, the federal government, social media companies, and all these other groups were communicating privately through this messaging system. So that's what this request is about. It's what we ask for. We often have to ask for the document 6 ways to Sunday to ensure that we get everything. And Representative Anna Paulina Luna, who is a new member of Congress, who the left hates because she's A, a female, B, a conservative, and C, effective, revealed information that this system was being used to censor Americans. As she noted in her questioning of Twitter employees a few weeks ago, or former Twitter employees a few weeks ago, these entities were all communicating on a private cloud server known as Jira. Now, the screenshot behind her showed an example of one of thousands of examples of them, Twitter specifically, exchanging communications on this system with this government entity that I'm talking about, run out of the Department of Homeland Security and these other groups. And they were communicating not to talk about the weather, but to censor people. So this came up in the matter of court testimony. Now, the Elon Musk Twitter files are the tip of the iceberg, as I've talked about, as the federal government ran a massive secret censorship op against the American people that went well beyond just Twitter. That the DHS is hiding these censorship records in violation of FOIA law shows the agency still has something to hide. Now, as I said, this is just one of many lawsuits that we filed on this issue. We just sued DHS recently for that same agency's communications with the social media platforms about censoring and elevating news reports, specifically that New York Post report on the Hunter Biden laptop. We also sued for the Justice Department for records of the FBI's communications about the Hunter laptop and other matters, because the FBI was, they had, I think, 2 full offices doing nothing but censoring Americans. We sued the Secretary of State of California directly for Judicial Watch because the Secretary of State of California persuaded YouTube to take down a Judicial Watch video featuring yours truly, where I was talking about the dirty voting rolls in California and my concerns about mass mail-in ballots. Perfectly legitimate discussion. And YouTube censored it at the request of this government entity out in California. So we sued, a federal civil rights lawsuit. So I tell you, it's not just information we're looking for accountability. This censorship issue is important to the future of our nation because if we can't communicate and gain access to information on this system, this internet system, which has been such a revolutionary step forward in access, providing access to the public about what the world is up to and the way government operates, I tell you, we might as well just shut the country down. On the other hand, they're so desperate to censor us because we're so effective online and they can't control all the information, so they're desperate to do anything they can, including violating the Constitution, to control it. I mean, it used to be back in the day, and many of you can remember that day, when there were 3 networks, 2 or 3 major newspapers or news wires, and that was it. And that was the narrative. Now there are all these other competing narratives, and it's just glorious. And for those of us who want to protect the rule of law, expose what the government's up to in terms of corruption, and just have the ability to have a say in the direction of our nation and participate in the conversation. And the left hates that. And they've been trying to put the genie in the bottle, and they're growing more and more desperate with this illegal censorship in order to do so. And so we're proud to be in the forefront of fighting for you, because this isn't just about Judicial Watch's rights or Donald Trump's rights. This is about your right to, even if you aren't censored directly, if you can't see something that I send you or post for you, you're being censored. If you can't see something Donald Trump posts for you, you're being censored. If you can't see something your friend posts for you, you're being censored. So you, fellow American, are as much a victim as Donald Trump is in these censorship wars. So we're going to keep on fighting. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like our video down below.